Good evening. I'm here with my brother Wayne Young, who I met in 2005. And the way I want to start this story is, what are the chances of two cousins on two different continents, unaware of one another's existence, and building a blossoming relationship into one kindred spirit to uplift their family's historical village? So we're going to start out with my brother Wayne telling his story on how we first contacted one another. Go ahead, Wayne.
So I have to tell that part of the story? Oh, I have to tell what I know of that part of the story. Well, published in Port of Harlem Magazine and portofharlem.net. At that point, we had been in existence for about 10 years, and we had been doing stories on the Gambia for at least probably 4 years by then. And so we would get calls, of course, from people interested in going to the Gambia, and Tina was one of many people, just a person. And at some point, it turned in from just interest to a reality.
Yes.
And that doesn't always happen.
How well do we know?
So at that point, you have to tell your side of the story.
Okay, so I called the magazine and I explained to Wayne who I was and how I was connected to our historical village. I explained to him that I was the 7th generation great-granddaughter of Chicken George, who is the grandfather to Kunta Kinte. Well, great, all those greats. And so I told him that I was very interested in going to my historical or ancestry village and meeting my family, and he went on to tell me that he had been there and he had met them, and that's where my journey began. So I'm going to introduce you to my husband, Henry Thompson, and he's going to tell you how he first felt when I first told him that I had spoken to Wayne, and that I hadn't even discussed it with him, but I had already made the decision when I talked to Wayne that I was going to my historical or ancestry village.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to say, my wife, as she told me about her trip to the Gambia, I was in total shock because she didn't really fly very much. And, she told me about her brother Wayne Young, that she had met him, spoken with him about it, and he had traveled there a couple of times before, and she expressed that she wanted to go. So I was kind of skeptical at first because, due to the fact that it wasn't too many years ago that 9/11 had happened. So I was kind of nervous a little bit at first, but I saw her persistence and wanted to go to the Gambia. And, I just told her that, exercise, safety, and, just be aware of their surroundings, in which most of them would tell their wife that they wasn't really going. And after meeting Mr. Young and her other traveling partners, I felt okay, because I had met, the first time I met Mr. Young, Wayne Young, was during her flight at Dulles. And, I felt kind of comfortable because he had gone before. And the other two that went on the trip that was their first trip too. So it was kind of different at first because like I said, I knew things that had happened in the last 3 or 4 years and the way that security was, still with the U.S. Going through the transition from the thing going around the world and stuff. But it turned out to be very well. It was kind of a little tough journey going home because the kids hadn't really seen mom go really by herself in a while. So they went through their little traumatic episodes, going back, but I just kept encouraging them that she, something she's always wanted to do, something that she expressed from time to time. And I knew she would go. It's just a matter of time and the right connections. So it was a good experience, and I'm happy for her because she's able to explore and do some things that she's always wanted to do, and that was go to Africa, the homeland, and meet her family there, which she was able to do.
So in our next segment, we're going to talk with my brother Wayne about our first trip once we touched ground in the Gambia, our boat ride over to the village of Jufre, and then we're going to fast forward that and talk to you about how we started our nonprofits and what prompted us. So you can start first, Wayne.
But I guess on that particular trip, what we took is the boat with other tourists, and we were probably the only black people on the boat besides the workers.
Yes, we were.
And that in itself was always an adventure. And the boat ride is nice because you go up the Gambia River, and it puts me to sleep really because I want to sleep.
It's very relaxing.
Yeah, because it's very relaxing.
Yes.
And the food is like super fresh.
Oh, absolutely delicious.
Because it's so fresh.
Yes.
Like the salmon and all that.
Yes.
It's just different because it's so fresh.
Yes.
And then the guys that then entertain the tourists, and
Yeah.
you have to remember that they are doing their job.
Right.
But they're singing and dancing for all the Europeans. It's like, okay, well, y'all gonna stop this.
Right.
But just remember they're doing their job.
Yes.
And the rest of the trip you get to hear and see what people had to say, and I think that was all exciting.
Yeah.
What I remember one thing I do remember from that trip in particular was stopping over in Dakar,
Yeah.
and at the so they have a point of no return there too.
Yes. Goree Island.
Goree Island, and we're on our way. And Gambia has one too. It's called Fort James Island,
Yeah.
but it's now called Kunta Kinte Island.
Yeah.
And the one in Senegal is more developed. But that too, the one in Senegal was interesting because during the tour, it was interesting to see how the guards tried to at least let the black people go in and visit by themselves, but it didn't work out perfectly as he wanted. But one of the black guys with us asked the guy, he said, "So do you all tell them about the black people who participated in enslaving the people?" And it was so hilarious because that was so much like Kevin to say something like that.
Wow.
And the guy was just stumped. As in my experience all the time, the tour guides there may not be as versed into history as American, and we can stump them so quickly with information. And I think on the way back was also interesting because, and I know I'm skipping ahead on just events that took place, but skipping ahead on the way back, I think our planes was one going to leave on time or didn't leave on time, but you and
Miss Virginia.
Virginia decided to leave earlier.
Yeah.
And Kevin and I decided to stay an extra day. And Kevin was at his finest again that night because we got to the airport in Dakar that night. The plane would leave and the guy wanted to charge us extra money. And Kevin told the guy, he said, "Well, I guess you don't have any power. So let me talk to your boss." I'll never forget that. That was just hilarious.
And Miss Virginia and I, we slept in Dakar's airport because they said that it was having some kind of delay with the plane or something. And so we slept in the airport. And by me not having at that time not having a lot of flying experience, I was a wreck, a nervous wreck. Oh Lord, I gotta get back home to my husband.
In one piece.
Right. And so I was like, oh Lord, no, Miss Virginia, let's go. We were throwing out the clothes in the suitcase, and Lord have mercy. But that was an experience. My first experience was an experience. It's so funny. Wayne left out the part with his dear friend Charm, which I now call my brother as well. Shout out to Charm. And so we got settled in. What was the first hotel we stayed in Banjul?
I can't remember.
Oh,
I read Atlantic.
yes, it was the Atlantic. And so Charm, I was telling Charm that I wanted to make a call to my husband. And so Charm disassembled my phone and I fell complete of pieces. I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna know when I'm gonna call my husband back, because this was my first time being that far a distance away from my husband. And Charm was like, oh, First Lady, please. It's gonna be okay.
And I guess the point of it too is that she began to meet the people that I've been knowing for at least 5 years, and
Yeah.
I know for 20 years.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in general, people can be so helpful,
Yes.
but at times it frightens you because it may be something that you're not accustomed to.
Right.
So all these stories aren't stories of fright; they're stories of us of learning to have patience.
Yes, and learning different each other's cultures, the similarities, but then also the differences in our cultures.
Right.
Yeah. So, Wayne, so why don't you share with everybody what prompted you to start? We're going to fast forward now and talk about what prompted us to start our nonprofits. But let me, before you say that,
Put the math a little bit.
okay.
Yeah.
But before I say that, I think it was in 2010. I think that was about my third trip. 2009, when we sat down with Omar and.
Omar's your cousin that lives in Peru,
Yes, he is my cousin.
or was now.
Well, yes, he's deceased now. He began to share with us that some of the challenges that they had in Jufre, and so you can take it from there.
Well, Jufre ended up being your project.
Yeah, well, I know, but I'm just saying what prompt, some things that prompted us to start
I
our
understand,
nonprofit. Yeah.
but I guess
Yeah.
people should understand that my project starts in Nima Kunku.
Mhm.
That's still our basis. This is another village that's on the south bank. So the Gambia is generally divided between the north bank and the south bank. And so on the south bank, and originally I knew some guys, one in particular, but his friends, so it makes a total of 6, who were from the Gambia, and they worked they was coming to school where I worked. And so being friends with them, we kept in touch after most of them left, and after new ones came with their friends, and eventually I decided to go and visit. And while visiting there, the main one got me involved in his village, and that blossomed into our nonprofit, the Port of Harlem Gambian Education Partnership, which we've been doing since 2001. And the main thing he said to me that got us started was that he said, Wayne, why are there so many white Peace Corps workers here participating in the development of our country? Where are the African Americans? And my response was simple: your kids would never be able to say that. And so to this day, his kids aren't not able to say that, because they do see African Americans, via myself and people that we work with, and Tina ended up being a big addition. And then now they see there's another person that's related to me, or come with me, or come after me, or come before me, who is also involved in their community. And generally to this day, you do still see a lack of non-European or non-European Americans who are involved in doing day-to-day basic things.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this documentary, so that it serves as an encouragement or a catalyst to prompt African Americans or people of color to reach outside of their communities and to help and to give a hand up.
I guess something it works both ways. Sometimes when people say that you're giving something, people always ask simple questions like, well, we have problems here.
Yes.
But that's not the issue. The problem is that there are problems there are problems here, the problems we have together. And the connections oftentimes yield results both ways. Mm-hmm. And one of the results I always tell the Gambians that they assist us, mm-hmm. is that by whatever they do, oftentimes they become role models for people here.
Yeah.
Because you oftentimes, for one, when I work with the young adults in particular, they're less than 30, and they're doing things that kids here less than 30 don't even begin to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, one group they're building footbridges. The guys are electricians, painters, concrete workers, and they get together and they do things to better their community. And just building footbridges, them fixing up the mosque, things of that nature. And you don't hear them using language that we wouldn't say on here because it's not a part of who they are. And that they spend so much time working with their own young adults. So all we do is give them a hand. So actually they end up being, if nothing else, more than an inspiration. But there's other things that you can get of value from them. So a lot of times we compare them when we connect them with other schools. It helps the kids here understand more about their own ancestry and who they are as African people than they can get by just reading a book or by someone beating drums in the classroom. You actually see actual people doing actual things.
Yes.
So the mental value of it is invaluable.
Yes. Would you like to share what your thoughts are on what we could do to improve our relationships between African Americans and the Africans?
Well, I said two ways. Here in the United States, for instance, you'll see an increasing number of continental Africans who are advancing. We can always be supportive. Like in Wisconsin, this coming November, there'll be the first Muslim in the Wisconsin legislature, the first Gambian American in any state legislature. His name is Samba Baldwin. You can contribute to his campaign, even if it's just a thank you or a like you on his Facebook page. That's a way of contributing. Or you can actually give money. But most likely he's going to win. So that's a non-starter. There's a Nigerian American who's running for Secretary of State in the state of Missouri. So you see a lot of this is on the political end. But then, the business end and other sectors of the world, you see these type of things happening. And instead of looking at people and being xenophobic and saying they're immigrants and they should be here, you should welcome them. One of the stories that we did later in Port of Harlem was that how so many Hispanic immigrants, when they marry newly arrived immigrants from their home country, which means they replenish their culture and they replenish their heritage. I'm not suggesting that you have to marry someone that's continental, says that you can or cannot, but I'm saying at least when you reach out and participate, you enrich yourself and you enrich our community as a whole. And if marriage is in the works, so be it. Good thing.
So fast forwarding, when was the last time you was on the continent in Gambia?
Last year I went twice. So the first time I went twice in 1 year. And I went one definitely because it was time to go to take care of business. The second time to go to the event, and I forget what holiday it was a major Muslim holiday. And it's like Halloween, Christmas, and Thanksgiving rolled into one. And our friend Charles, who she mentioned earlier, had been begging me to go to his village for years. And, Tina talked about having fright, and I act like I don't have any. I have them too. And I was just not cool into going all the way up to his village, which was way up country. Which means that if I get sick, it'll be like a day before I get to a decent hospital. And you get all these little frights, and then you meet people. Yeah. And they're often Europeans who live way off somewhere in the hinterland. And it's like, why do they live way out there? And they'll tell you, well, if I die, I die. And I'm thinking that's a bizarre way of thinking, but they out enjoying their life as it is. And I met this lady, and she's still a friend. She's from Ireland, I think. And she comes for 6 months during the non-rainy season, and she goes back in the rainy season back to Ireland. And we had a long talk about that, about coming here at age 70 plus. And she says, well, I like being here. And I want to be here this time of year. And she said, my kids don't necessarily like it, but the thing is that I could die here, or I could die there. And I'm not quite there yet.
I am.
But I went up country and had the best time I could ever imagine.
Okay.
And so I am so mad that I'm not there now, but my dad's been passed since March,
Okay.
and it's November. But the pandemic says that Americans aren't welcome. And so our visas aren't good in most of the world
Yeah.
because of the pandemic.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
when we get our act together here, people open up, it'll be good. So even in South Africa now, South Africa has opened up the country to all Africans, but not to a lot of people in Europe and not to Americans.
Wow.
So we're still too dangerous.
Yeah. Because we don't want to wear our mask.
Exactly.
That's another video. On our last and final note, I'll give Wayne the opportunity to, once again, because it's not his first time inviting folks to go to the Gambia and say why they should want to go to the Gambia. So I'll let him do the final say on that.
Well, you know, at this point of time, I think, I don't know how many trips I've been. This ain't like my 20th trip by now.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't taken people with me in quite some time. And people always ask, well, when more people want to come? And I tell them, well, people oftentimes don't want to come to the Gambia, I think because it's not on television all the time. And so they don't see what they're going to see, or it's not glamorized. But I always say the reason why you would want to go to the Gambia first is because it's small enough that you will get a chance to actually get to know and to see people. And everybody's not into that. Some people really want to go see a country from a bus. And they want to get on a nice air-conditioned bus, and they just want to go and wave at the people as they go by. But if you really want to go to the Gambia and see the people, eat with the people, I don't say sleep with the people, because I sleep in a nice hotel. That's what my limit costs.
And please tell them about the hotels. They're very beautiful hotels and, you know, bed and breakfast, apartments that you can rent, wonderful houses. You know, because people, the first thing they say is, well, how was the food? How was it? Where do you stay? You know, those are like
And this is
typical.
what Tina becomes a little bit more adventurous than I am. Again, she talked about her first time and her hesitation, but she didn't want to turn me on to going to that place to eat that's down where we stay at now. And it's called Kaki.
Oh, okay.
What
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
Caddy.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that food is so good. First of all, that's where the cab drivers go, and the locals, and the young whites tend to go there.
Yeah.
Because again, you know, it's people who are getting out of their comfort zone,
Yes.
or not afraid to get out of their comfort zone. And you go there, and the food is so good, but it's so cheap.
Yes.
Because it's made for the locals, or it's created for the locals. Where you go to the restaurant and get the same food, and you pay more money.
Yes.
And so the Caddy is always on my list of places to go to eat at least once. And I have my other spots I like to go to. But the hotel I stay in, the place I stay in now, actually you stayed there first, and I stayed there after you. Again, I'm following her down.
Well, Aqua Suites?
The Aqua Suite.
Aqua Suites, yes.
Yeah, because I get 2 whole bedrooms,
Mm-hmm.
2 bathrooms. I mean, everything is neat.
Yes.
You know, it's not overly opulent,
Mm-hmm.
but it's real nice and neat, and the air conditioning working, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
And I like staying there. But the other place I like to stay before then, the only reason I don't stay there as much anymore is because they won't take my credit card, because they want me to come pay in advance and all this kind of stuff. And maybe on the pandemic end, they might have that part set up. But that place is only about 3 blocks away, and it's right at the main junction. When I had Aqua Suites, I had to walk up the street and then walk down to the junction, which is okay, because even they have a new bakery right across the street.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good, because that way when I come home at night and go to the bakery and take my food, take the bakery
Right,
home for the morning.
right.
So, yeah, the places are nice. I mean, you know, but if you want to pay more money, you can stay on the beach
Yeah.
and
Like at Caraba.
yeah, the Caraba. I mean, it's so clean
Yes.
that as soon as you walk in the gate, you want to take your shoes off and
Oh,
just
God, I
walk
know.
all the way down the manicure lawn.
Beautiful.
You don't even put your shoes on in your hotel room,
Yes.
and so and everything is real more plush,
Yes.
and it's nice.
Yeah.
But I've done that, and I'm over that now. To me,
Right.
it's okay.
Yes.
I like staying where I stay now.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
I think you have more interactions. You know, when you stay in an apartment,
more real interaction.
Yes. Yes.
You're not a guest. You're part
Yes.
of the environment.
Yes.
You're part of the neighborhood.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I only paid what, $25 a night. I know one time I stayed for a whole month,
Mhm.
and it's really cheaper to stay for a whole month because I only pay like $20 a night.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I haven't had the whole month experience yet, but I will soon. So
I was saying that yes, I've stayed. Now the cost of staying there is cheaper if you stay for a longer period of time. So twice so far I've stayed for an entire month, and I only paid $20 a night. Whereas if I stay for 15 days, I pay about, I think it's $50 a night, or between $25 and $50 a night. But whatever it is, much cheaper than staying here.
Mhm.
Plus I get free breakfast.
Yes, I get the free breakfast when I stay obviously.
Right. But you can pay more and stay at the Kettlebell, for instance.
Mhm.
And I was saying it's so nice that as soon as you get to the gate of the Kettlebell, you want to take off your shoes
Right.
and just walk all the way down the path, all the way down the sidewalk.
Yes.
And with the manicure lawn. When you get your hotel room, you definitely want to take off your shoes. And the rooms are plush.
Yes.
But to me, that was nice the first couple of times. But after a while, it's like, okay, this is a little bit too much.
Mhm.
Staying aside the smaller hotels are nice because everything is nice and clean. It's not as plush, but you know, it's more homey because you know the guards,
Yes.
and you know the cook,
Yeah.
and you know the cleaner,
Yes.
and you know the people who run the office.
Yeah.
And you know they know you by name, and they know,
Exactly.
and then you come in and you go, and it become more like part of your family.
Mhm.
And I even once was there a couple of times. I don't hang around the hotel long enough, but there was even some guys that was from, I forgot. They all went to the same school, either in the U.S. or in Europe,
Mhm.
and they get together once a year.
Okay.
And it was good hang around with them one night because
Wow.
it was so different.
Wow.
And so those type of experience you don't have oftentimes when you're in a hotel.
Mhm.
Oftentimes because there aren't necessarily Africans there, or because they, people are just too busy being tourists.
Yeah.
And so you can pay cheaper and stay in as good as nice of a place and have even a better time than in a more plush place. But some people like plush environments, so they
Yeah.
have to have that stuff.
Yeah. So I was, and I had interrupted when it was like, well, I haven't had the opportunity to stay for a month, but as I prepare to repatriate, then I would definitely get my experience staying there for a month. So I guess as soon as the pandemic lifts, I guess Wayne and I'll be prepared.
I'm ready to go.
I'm telling you, we are ready to go.
My bags are already half packed.
I know,
I have
right?
2 bags and one is already packed.
So I guess we will end that on that note.